You listen to your Morning Monarchy, you guys. It is the fourth and final Wednesday of the month. And since this year, 2024, we have started a new awesome segment. I love it. It's getting better and better every time. And we call it the Mounsey Minute. Our buddy, Gavin Mounsey, giving us good stuff. Fourth Wednesday of every month here in the Media Monarchy Kingdom. So previously, talked about 24 reasons to start a garden in 2024. We also talked about urban guerrilla gardening. But I got a poll for you. He actually has two polls on his Substack. Of course, will all be included in your show notes. Poll of the month. The power's off. Grocery stores are empty. Gas stations are dry. What will you do? He's got two polls to have a lot of different choices. Scale up garden cultivation. Grab your bug out bag. Go raid the grocery stores. Go to your bunker to hide out. Maybe inventory your prepping supplies. Maybe go foraging. Maybe check in with your neighbors. Maybe ask the government for help. Or pray for deliverance and just sit tight for Daddy State to come save you. The power's off. Grocery stores are empty. Gas stations dry. What will you do? What will you do?
This is Gavin Mounsey for Media Monarchy, and this is the Mounsey Minute. This month, I'm going to be talking a little bit about one of the polls I have on my Substack for the Mirrors for the Heart, Mind, and Soul series, where I want to get people thinking about what skill sets they have if the entire centralized grid that we've all come to depend on so much were to come to a grinding halt all of a sudden. So the title of the poll of the month for March was, "The power's off, grocery stores are empty, gas stations dry. What will you do?" One of my motivations for creating the poll was I've been noticing a trend where some of the people who woke up during the scamdemic and they saw big pharma's poisons and they saw how being dependent on the industrial medical system left them vulnerable have kind of fallen into another trap, and that is they think that you can maintain health in a natural way but from your comfort of your computer chair buying supplements on Amazon. And so that I was seeing how that kind of leaves people open to another form of vulnerability, which is that the supply lines aren't solid. So if there's a severe disruption in the supply line, whether it's back at the farm where a crop fails or it's getting shipped to you or it's an entire economic breakdown, those things that you've come to depend on to maintain your health, those things aren't available anymore. So being able to know where you can access them at home, whether in the forest or growing it in your garden, is extremely important. I also wanted to create the poll just to get people to take a step back and really look at how fragile our centralized infrastructure is. And there's plenty of ways how this thing could start to crumble, have serious disruptions, or even collapse altogether through a number of different variables. Whether it's like something intentional, like a false flag, or an intentional manipulation of the economy, like the 2008 market crash, or something more severe, like the intentionally created depression in the 100 years ago in the 20s. Or it's something man-made like an EMP device that cripples the entire power grid or all technological devices, or a natural event that could do similar like a CME or a large solar flare geomagnetic storm. There's situations where all this money that we've come to depend on to get the things to feed ourselves, to stay healthy, or the actual supplies of those things themselves could not be available to us. So I want to get people thinking about redundancy and backup plans. And even if they already have backups and they're already starting to prep, to think about ways they could even improve that. And that applies for me too. For instance, I like to preserve a lot of my own food from my garden, from the forest, from farmers markets, and I lean into fermentation a lot because I like to preserve things with the fresh nutrition and get the probiotic action. And I have a freeze dryer, so I freeze dry a lot of full meals and soups. But that leaves me vulnerable to, if the grid was to go down, then my stuff in the freezer and my freeze dryer cannot continue to preserve my crops and my things that you can't ferment, like soups and meals and different things like that. So pressure canning is on the list for me this year to step up my diversity of skill sets and tools so that even if the grid was to go down, I can still preserve seasonal abundances. And so that's something I'm looking to get into myself. So I created a poll with a few choices that people could choose from that would be what they would choose to do in that kind of situation. I mean, it's limited because it's a multiple choice. Maybe you'd want to choose to do multiple of those, or you'd want a totally different option, but you can go ahead to the Substack post and check it out and vote on yours and get into the comments and discussions, share your ideas and see what other people are thinking. One of the things I like to do as kind of a checklist whenever I'm looking at stepping up my skills that are going to be universally applicable, whether it's an emergency or in everyday life, is to try to look at building skills and putting my time into things that are going to enhance my everyday life as well as make me more prepared for an emergency situation. Like if I'm going on walks in the forest and I'm learning how to identify plants, that's a skill that enhances my life. I can appreciate the beauty in life and every day. It helps me in the garden, and in an emergency, I can apply that then as well. And then beyond just individual household emergency preparedness, I created the poll as a way to get people thinking on more of a community scale. Like once you get yourself really stepped up in your skill sets and your awareness of plants, your surroundings, and how to preserve food, connecting with your neighbors and creating that reciprocity of goodwill amongst your community is another way to really scale up your resiliency and emergency preparedness in a big way. Well, speaking of emergency preparedness, I've been collecting some medicinal seeds on my walks with my wife in the forest this winter, and I'm going to go check on those and see how they're coming along. But here's to taking steps to cultivate skills and learn about things that enrich our everyday lives and also help us prepare for emergencies. Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you next month.
There it is, the Mounsey Minute for March. The power's off, grocery stores are empty, gas stations dry. What will you do? I will include the related articles in the polls, preparing for the 100-year storms. Pretty good stuff from Gavin Mounsey. All of that, and how he's a band, too. Huge thanks to Hybrid for creating cover art for bands that only exist in your hermetically sealed Media Monarchy kingdom. Gavin Mounsey's What Will You Do? I like it. Looks like it could be a cassette insert there.